I'm gonna call this May 15th meeting to order. And then I'm gonna go ahead and read our disclaimer statement. Okay. In accordance, wait, can everybody hear me? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it's the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters today coming before the board? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in this subject matter. Are there any conflicts? Okay, then we can go ahead and proceed. Do we need to take roll for anything right now?
No, we can go through public comment and then get to approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
Awesome, that sounds great.
Okay, so I know we have at least one person here who's interested in providing public comment. Sonia Marcus, if you're ready, please feel free to provide comment at the front of the room.
Sure. Where do you want me to be? At the podium?
Yeah, just somewhere in the front would be great.
There's no microphone here, though. It'll still pick me up?
Yeah, the microphones are at the ceiling.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Marcus, and I'm a homeowner in Asheville. I live on Westwood Place near Hazel Mill, which is quite close to where Patton Avenue crosses. And I have been involved in various kind of public citizen engagement efforts in our community in the past. I have served as the chair of the City of Asheville Sustainability Commission. I was one of the founding members of the Energy Innovation Task Force. I also served as the director of sustainability at UNCA, but today I'm coming to you as a very concerned citizen and homeowner in regards to the I-26 connector project. Do I have 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. I know that all of the members of this group are interested in seeing that project completed, as we all are, but I think it's really important that we don't sacrifice some really important design considerations here at the end that pertain to Asheville and the people who live in Asheville who will be directly impacted, including me. The concerns I have primarily have to do with the overpass of I-26 over Patton Avenue, which will significantly diminish its qualities as a bike-ped, neighborhood-friendly corridor. I'm very concerned about the likelihood that that will turn into a large encampment of unhoused people, because it will really be ideal conditions for that there on Patton Avenue as a result of that. And I'm concerned also about the diminishing value of the property surrounding that area on Patton Avenue, which really can serve as another new business district or community-focused services, whatever it is. The value of that property, which is very limited in Asheville, will not be improved by having a massive 12-lane highway overpass over Patton Avenue. There are other features of the recent changes to the designs that are also of concern. I'll just point out that those of us who are engaged in this effort are holding a community design charrette this weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, where we intend to collect input from our community and our elected officials and anybody else who would like to participate about the concerns that we have at this juncture. My hope is that NCDOT will be forthcoming with information in a way that they have not been, even to this group, and that they will seek constructive ways to engage with us around these design issues. We have a lot of people in our community who have proven over decades that they have the expertise and the will necessary to improve the project as best we can so that we get the best possible outcomes for not just the city of Asheville, but all of the residents of the region who depend on Asheville as an important urban hub. So I hope that you'll make time to attend the public design charrette this weekend and urge NCDOT to work with us on some of these design features, which we really believe we can accomplish together with a little bit of extra effort without delaying or substantially delaying the project any further. So if you'd like more information about that, I'd be happy to talk to you after the meeting. You can also visit the I-26 Citizens Coalition for more information about that event and the other activities we have underway. So thanks so much for your attention.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who make public comment today? If you're online, please just drop a note in the chat that you'd like to make comment. Okay, hearing none, thank you all, and we can move to the approval of agenda and the consent agenda.
Okay, and you all should have a copy of your agenda. They were sent out electronically. And there's also the attached consent agenda. And so if there are no other comments or questions, I would entertain a motion to approve these.
So moved.
Okay. Seconds?
Second.
All right. Asheville, Kim Roney.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
BOT Division 13, Billy Clark.
Aye.
BOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady. Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Slayer.
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin. Aye. Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wechtel.
Aye.
Maggie Valley, Mike Evelyn. Mills River, Jeff Moore.
Aye.
Montrese, Tom Whitmer.
Aye.
Rural Transit, David White.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Larry Harris.
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell. Aye. And Woodfin, Jim McAllister.
Aye.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay. Also, I just wanted to, if no one has an objection, just take a moment of silence. Laurel Park lost a very, very valued councilman and friend of the city of Hendersonville a few weeks ago. And he was a great public servant and an even better guy. And so if we could just give him a moment of silence. Okay. So first up on business is, I guess, the MPO staff today.
Yep. So, let me keep on scrolling. So one of the things we wanted to bring up today is it relates to the project R2588B. That is the planned and fully funded and committed widening of NC 191 in Henderson County. That project has been funded since 2014. And the project limits are from NC 280 on the north end down to Mountain Road on the south end. So it's a project that is both in the town of Mills River as well as unincorporated Henderson County. And so just a little bit of background on this project. Currently the road out there is a two-lane undivided highway. What was funded was initially proposed as a 4-lane divided highway. So adding additional lanes, but when we say divided, we mean adding a median throughout much of the corridor. After some public feedback in 2016, after some initial public meetings, Steve, please feel free to jump in if I mess up some dates. But in 2016, the town of Mills River requested that the median be removed from the project, at least within the town limits. NCDOT went ahead and removed the median from those designs and has been proceeding with the project design without a median since that point. There's kind of two reasons why we're bringing this up. First of all is that R2588B was recently delayed in the draft STIP that is expected to be adopted by the Board of Transportation and this board in the coming months. The other thing is that we spent 3 months discussing safety targets, and we will be discussing them more before we know it. And you know, one thing that came out of that discussion was, well, you know, there's not a whole lot that we can do to intervene in terms of all of the safety issues. I'll say that in large part, yes, that's true. The safety issues we face are very wide. There's a number of causes, there's a number of places. But with this project specifically, the thing to point out is that medians and access management along corridors, especially multi-lane corridors, are considered proven safety countermeasures. And so a couple of studies that I have cited in the agenda packet, one of them shows that access management along urban, suburban corridors have a 25 to 31% reduction in fatal and severe crashes. That is a significant reduction. That is one of those things that helps us move ever so slightly towards those safety targets, or at least try to change the trend line that we're currently on. Conversely, another study shows that when roads go from a 4-lane divided and the median is removed, crashes have increased. That study found 45%. And so, all in all, we know that medians and access management along corridors, especially like NC 191, are something that help to reduce crashes, and especially severe and fatal crashes. A lot of times that center lane that allows people to turn left in either direction, it's referred to as a suicide lane. That's not great. We've had some recent coordination with Councilman Moore, with NCDOT, with Mills River staff about the appetite to at least reconsider this part of the project. And so at this point, I think that, and you know, anyone jump in if I'm mischaracterizing, I think people are open to having the discussion about re-adding this element of the project. So the resolution that we put together today, in the wording we put that we would like to request that that the median be reconsidered in coordination with the town of Mills River, because there are a lot of issues along that corridor. There were a lot of concerns brought up, especially with farm equipment through that corridor, but it's my understanding in talking with NCDOT that those issues are things that can be addressed through design. And so I think at this point we're looking for this board's potential support on making that request to DOT to reopen that for consideration. Question? Yes.
Can we hear from someone from Mills River as to the logic why they asked that the meeting be removed? Is that possible?
So Councilman Moore, he has his hand raised. He was not on council at the
Yes.
time, if you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeff Moore, and I'm a lifelong resident of Mills River, except for a little time in the active duty Air Force. The conversations that I've been having, and I spoke with a business owner today, the concern is about tractors. The cars, the trucks, the 18-wheelers even, making U-turns not that big of a deal. But the concern is with the tractors that do have to traverse that part of 191, and where are they going to go to get out of traffic? And believe it or not, I've been told that they like to ride in that center turn lane, the suicide lane, because that's a place that in their minds they can get out of traffic. So my understanding is at the time when this came up in the town of Mills River, there is at least one council member that was for the 4-lane section, but was convinced by the farmers and their interest to do away with that and have it back to a 5-lane. Me personally, as an engineer, ethically and personally, safety is number one. And I'm all for, I appreciate Tristan and the works of the MPO to get more safety on our roads. And I'm afraid of the safety consequences of a 5-lane here. But I think we also need to balance that with access for the tractors. And I'm glad to hear the DOT is willing to look at what we can do to help with that concern. So, like I said, again, as an engineer, as an elected member of the council, I feel like my primary responsibility is for the safety. And I don't want to wait until there's a crash pattern to do something. And I feel like now we've got time to get the stakeholders at the table and to talk about, okay, what can we do? How can we accommodate the tractors? Maybe a wider shoulder or something so that extra wide equipment has a place to go. And then I think what we need to make clear is that people can then pass the tractors. And if you can pass a tractor, that can cut down on some of the frustration people feel. So anyway, all those different conversations, I think we need to have. I think we would greatly appreciate some ideas that we can look at, some potential alternatives as far as, okay, you turn here, you turn there, et cetera. But I really think the conversation needs to be had and see where we can go from there. Sorry to filibuster, but I think we now have the opportunity. We do have more crash data since this was first brought up. We have more studies, and we've learned more about 5-lane sections, and they're not all good. So thanks. Glad to answer any more questions, and I'll try to keep my answers short, which is hard for me.
A couple of quick clarifying points. One is that the project, the part of the project in unincorporated Henderson County still includes the median. So the median ends roughly at the town's jurisdiction. And the other thing is that the width of the road actually doesn't change. That's important is because medians are generally wider than travel lanes. So MCDOT is essentially designing a road to eventually retrofit with a median if and when those safety issues become more clear.
And Tristan, I'm afraid that it's a win. And, when I worked at DOT, I was often accosted by people with, aggressive encouragement. One of the things they would say is, you're going to wait till someone gets killed to put that in. And that's never the intention, never. But sometimes once a pattern emerges, it has to be solved. And the way you solve a crash pattern on a 5-lane is to make it a 4-lane divided. So I'm afraid it's a win, not just an if.
Mayor Blair?
If I may, I'd like to make two quick comments and conclude by saying I'm happy to make the motion for this document. Two things. Anybody driving in a middle turn lane is bad and it's illegal. And secondly, I grew up in a rural area where there were tractors everywhere. They drove on the far right-hand side of the road and everybody went around them. So I would sincerely ask for a reconsideration of this because someone will get killed.
Tristan, I have one additional comment, or maybe two. One is, it sounds like the town of Mills River asked that the median not be included, and now I'm hearing from Councilman Moore that he wants more discussion of that. I mean, I would be a little reluctant to overrule the town of Mills River request without hearing more from them. Second, in commercial areas, and I know this is maybe not safety oriented, but I hear from a lot of property owners when a median is being put in, and they don't like it because that restricts access to businesses. The businesses have to go and make a U-turn. And I'm not advocating for either of those positions, and I'm just pointing out that at this point, I don't think we have a clear answer from the town of Mills River about how they feel. I obviously recognize Councilman Moore's position and his experience, but I just feel a little uncomfortable voting to overrule the town of Mills River without having heard, especially from the town, and maybe others know more about that than I do.
Could we amend? May I have a question? Could this be amended asking DOT to reconsider it through the town of Mills River by having extensive discussions with the town government in Mills River? Would that be better to add something like that?
And the farming community.
I think I would
Making sure that ag aspect is part of that conversation.
I think maybe even tabling it until at least a month to where you can reach out to the town of Mills River. I appreciate what Mr. Clark said. I felt the same way. I had a question in regards to the crash data. Of course, I don't know anybody in here that would ever not want to put in something in place that would prevent crashes. And medians, you automatically think that stops crashes, but they don't. But it does help prevent those head-ons or someone who they're going to hit that curb instead of come all the way up in another lane, opposite lane. But what was the date for this crash information, this data that you're referring to? When was this done?
I believe that was provided, or that was developed by Federal Highways based on national studies. It's a conglomeration of national studies. I think that was put together around 2021.
2021. Okay.
I'm not sure if they've updated since then.
I know speaking with farmers during farmland preservation meeting that we had Monday, it was brought up that they had requested, that they had spoken to you and some others in regards to the safety on 191 and 280, and they had asked for turnout lanes for the tractors. And I think it might have come on the heels of when one of the farmers had a very serious accident. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So I would prefer to have a conversation with someone from the town of Fletcher before moving forward. Why did I say Fletcher? Sorry about that. You know where my brain usually stays. But I would prefer to have a conversation with the town of Mills River and would prefer to table to get a clear picture exactly as to the need of the farmers because all through there is nothing but farmland. But on the onset, medians sound like a great thing. I just want to understand exactly why they have requested no median to begin with. So I would make a motion to table the resolution until next month if possible.
With the understanding that what would happen during the month?
So you'd speak to the stakeholders in Mills River?
They would come
to
Mills
us,
River, or Tristan would do that, or?
That's good clarification. Either way, I know Jim and myself and Jeff wouldn't have a problem or an issue with speaking with some of them, but if the board sees fit and would please the board. I'm sure someone as a representative would be happy to come next month.
That'd be great.
That'd be good. I'm y'all talking, or Tristan talking about that.
I worked out there for 6 years in the sheriff's office, my last 6 years, so I've got very good ties with that community, even though I'm from Fletcher. And so I think if that's agreeable to everybody, we can sit down with some of those folks and at least bring some of those concerns back so everybody can hear it before.
If you need help, I'm happy to join you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this, Jeff Moore, from the town's perspective that I'm speaking for today, we want the conversations. We do want to have the conversations. We do. We want people at the table. We want to get the input. So we are in favor, and if we pass a resolution a week from tonight at our council meeting, it will be to have the conversations. And that's part of the reconsideration. But we definitely want to hear from our stakeholders. We definitely want to hear from the farming community. And we want to talk about what can we do? How can we make it livable? How can we make this agreeable? How can we make the farmers safer as part of it? So I think we can come up with a win-win. We've got to have the conversation. So, you know, that's what we would be asking for, as a conversation. And that's, to me, that's part of the reconsideration. If tabling it is fine, in the meantime, we will be talking. Hopefully, we'll have some of our community come in next Thursday night. We're going to hear from our emergency services, from the fire department, from the sheriff's department. Hopefully, Councilman Player will come, and officially, I hate to say it to his face, but we do love Jim Player. So hopefully, you know, we'll have a bunch of people at the table, and let's talk this thing out.
Great. Commissioner Wetzel?
I think what I would suggest and what I would like to see as a member of this board would be once the town of Mill River and those stakeholders have their opportunity to hash it out, I think a formal resolution from the town of Mills River would be appropriate for this board to have in their back pocket before taking the action. Simply because if it was my community, I want the board to have a full say, not just one or two people's word for something. I think a formal resolution would be beneficial to all of us.
Thank you, Matt. That seems very reasonable, but I also want to make sure that we're keeping in mind that we've got planners and traffic professionals to kind of compile the information that we're getting so that we can make wise choices and decisions out there. Tristan, would that be okay if we send a planner to those meetings?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely okay.
Okay. All right. So do we want to make a motion to just delay this, or do we need to even do that?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Okay. And we'll just do roll call then.
All right. Asheville Kimroni,
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens,
Aye.
DOT Division 13, Billy Clark,
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady, Buncombe County, Drew Ball,
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire,
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Player,
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers,
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin, aye. Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley,
Aye.
Laurel Park, George Banta,
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wechsel,
Aye.
Maggie Valley, Mike Evelyn, Mills River, Jeff Moore,
Aye.
Von Treat, Tom Woodmer,
Aye.
Rural Transit, David White,
Aye.
Urban Transit, Larry Harris.
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
And Woodfin, Jim McAllister.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Excellent. Great discussion, everybody. Okay, next item is the Citizens Advisory Committee dissolution.
All right, so this is just an update on the Citizen Advisory Committee, and we are asking for board action today on this item. Just to frame what the Citizen Advisory Committee does, this is from their bylaws. They serve as an independent body to the TCC and board, as an advisory body, to the TCC and board, and they are to provide independent, region-oriented citizen advice to the TCC and board on issues related to the development of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the Unified Planning Work Program, Transportation Improvement Program, and any other processes or planning efforts that require considerable public involvement. They promote public awareness and participation in the regional transportation planning process. They promote equity in the regional transportation planning process, and they make recommendations to enhance the French Broad River MPO's public involvement policies and techniques. For their bylaw, CAC is to be made up of 18 members appointed by the MPO board, and currently we have 5 active members since 2024 due to resignations and lack of attendance. Summary of some of our most recent meetings. Our October 2024 meeting was canceled as a result of Helene. In January 2025, our meeting was attended by 3 members, and then our last meeting in April was attended by 1 member. In terms of attendance requirements, members serve a 2-year term. They can be appointed to an unlimited number of terms. If a member of the CAC is absent for 4 consecutive meetings, they can become inactive and have their membership status reviewed by the other members of the committee. Under that standard, out of the 5 individuals that have been active since 2024, 3 are considered inactive by the group's bylaws. Attendance at the last 4 CAC meetings has ranged from 0 to 3 with a mean attendance of 1.5 individuals. So at this time, the staff recommendation is to proceed with the dissolution of the Citizen Advisory Committee and engage strategies that will facilitate more direct involvement by citizens in some of our later meetings, such as prioritization, CCC in this meeting, and also consider appointing citizens directly to existing committees such as prioritization. Last week, this went in front of the TCC, and their recommendation was to proceed with dissolution of the Citizen Advisory Committee. So I can take any questions that you have at this time.
Councilmember Ronan?
Yeah, I had a conversation with our Asheville city staff about this, and it was curious to me because I know my neighbors care so much about our roads and want us to do excellent work, and they want to have a voice. But we also want geographic equity. We want folks to participate across the MPO region. So I'm surprised we're dissolving this, but also because of the low attendance and the suggestion to maybe hear some of those voices at the prioritization or nitty-gritty committee. Does anything need to change for how that committee is structured so that we can bring those voices onto that committee?
Yes, that is going to be a follow-up discussion, but something related is we do want to engage this board in terms of overall committee structures, and if there's, what exactly, the subcommittee structure folks would really like to see. One request we've gotten from the prioritization subcommittee is that a lot of the meetings tend to be pretty long. We call it the nitty-gritty subcommittee. It gets into the weeds. It has been incredibly helpful for staff, but I know that Chair Elizabeth Teague has made the comment a few times that after the adoption of the MTP, she'd really like us to look at getting a lot of the work off of the prioritization subcommittee. They were started to do one task, prioritization. It has ballooned into a lot of different things. And so, in a related fashion to your question, we do want to have more of a discussion about what subcommittees would be of potential interest to this board, and overall attendance. Because we do think maybe more at-large members that could be of interest to other members of the public. I think that's a great point about not having too heavy of an Asheville membership. But I will say we've had that issue before, especially around the years of 2014 and 15. I think we had around 14 members, and 12 of them were Asheville residents. So this is something where, with the Citizens Advisory Committee, we have always tried to strive for something that has geographic representation. I think there was a period of time, especially before the pandemic, where it was a very effective committee. Since the pandemic, as Daisy noted, we've had people sign up to be on the committee. This board has approved a number of people to join the committee, but when it comes to actual attendance, we did not get quorum for a long period of time. It's something where we feel that we need to shift strategies. If the goal is to get a better engagement from residents around the region, the strategy has not been working for long enough that we feel like we need a different path.
What does that path look like? I'm super reluctant to abandon anything for citizen engagement, but if there's a plan to replace that, and I'd also, maybe this isn't the forum, who was running those meetings? Why did they don't have attendance, you replace them. So what's the plan to make it better, please?
I think as Daisy noted in her presentation, a couple of things we'd like to talk about or think about is strategies of either changing our committee structure. So maybe we don't just have one subcommittee that deals with a lot, and potentially adding seats on those committees so that residents who aren't necessarily already a part of the MPO can join those committees. And another strategy is just more direct involvement, trying to get more people to directly engage the MPO at our board meetings, TCC, as well as the subcommittee meetings.
Wouldn't it be more logical for us to see that plan before we recommend getting rid of a citizen advisory committee? Just a thought.
That's one way we can.
I fired up today, sorry.
I want to just
Thank you,
add
Tracy.
in just my opinion, and this is going to be me bragging a minute on the city of Hendersonville, but we host a really immense and robust public input for many of the planning things that we do for the city, our parks plan, our walk hendo plan. And so I think that there are very creative ways at reaching out to the public. Our Allison Justice, who is our public information media person, actually hosted the very first completely in Spanish forum this year, which was also amazing. So I think we have really good ways of reaching out to the public that we didn't necessarily have before. And also, I just want to make sure that we're keeping staff time and staff effort in the back of our minds as well, because they put a lot of effort into planning for these meetings and organizing for these meetings and then taking time for the meetings. And then when people don't show up also, that's very burdensome on their schedules as well, where they actually could be doing public outreach during those times. So I just want to keep that in mind as well.
Councilmember Roney, Not sure if your hand is still raised or raised again.
It is. I didn't have a chance to finish the flow from earlier, so I'll just add that I also am concerned about taking this one away from our resources. It seems to me that we're hearing about potential realignment of how the MPO's work plan and the staff's work plan can better plug in with our subcommittees. And I'd be inclined to hold off on throwing this one in the recycle bin before we know what that realignment looks like. If we're not going to do that, it may reflect in a vote today of having something on record that says I think we should keep citizens at the table.
Okay. We do have a citizen who would like to make a comment. Bit out of the ordinary, but Madam Chair, if that's all right, it seems appropriate given the conversation.
Go for it.
Yeah, I'm Scott Nickens. I'm treasurer of Connect Buncombe, which actually sort of came from this organization. And I was unaware of the Citizens Advisory Committee. And I thought I knew about most of the stuff. So apparently it's not real well publicized, I would guess is the way I would put it. Certainly I would have been there and on it. All right, if I'd known about it, and I know a number of other people that are in the county and the city of Connect, that belong to Connect Buncombe, who would be, especially people that have aged out, because we have a four term or an 8-year limit. Anyway, my thoughts.
Thank you, Scott.
Catherine Cordell, Weaverville. To be on this committee, you have to be an elected official or an employee, I guess, of the county. And so I really enjoyed being on this, but I rotate off of council this year. So I'll be your first volunteer to be on the Citizens Committee.
Excellent.
Would you chair it?
I'd be glad to.
Are you amenable to a motion?
Absolutely.
I move that we table this for further discussion next month. Give MPO staff time to flesh out the bullets number 2 and 3.
I'll second that motion.
Oh, okay. Axel Kimroni,
Aye.
Wilmore Forrest, Drew Stevens,
Aye.
DOT Division 13, Billy Clark,
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady, Buncombe County, Drew Ball,
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire,
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Blair,
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers,
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin,
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley,
No.
Laurel Park, George Banta,
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wechtel,
Aye.
Maggie Valley, Mike Evelyn,
Aye.
Mills River, Jeff Moore,
Aye.
Montreat, Tom Widmer, Rural Transit, David White,
Aye.
Urban Transit, Larry Harris,
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell, and Woodson, Jim Cavender.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, folks. We'll bring that back next month.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we've got some informational items to address today. The Elevate 2050 MTP update by McAdams staff.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Oh,
Go ahead, Joel.
Sorry.
I'll just give a quick introduction. Joel Strickland is our project manager for the MTP update known as Elevate 2050. And so I'll keep it short. Joel, take it away.
Thanks, Tristan. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in too early there. Thank you for the time this afternoon, and we'll try to keep this short and sweet for you. But we did want to drop in today and just give you a brief update of what we've been working on and where we are in the process, and provide you some information. But we've been busy with Elevate 2050, working on the MTP update for the next 25 years. We did a series of public meetings a couple of months ago in the region and got a lot of good feedback from those. And that was really presenting the initial draft project list and some of the scoring that we had done and getting feedback from the public on that. And that's really the main thing that we wanted to talk with you about today also, was giving you presenting to you the draft project list and getting your input on that. This list has been through the prioritization subcommittee, and they're still in the process of providing some comments back, and also looking at the fiscally constrained list and providing their comments on that. But wanted to show you the tool that has been floating around, and some of you may have already used this and taken the tool and taken the survey, and if you have, we appreciate that. But I just wanted to share it with you again in case some of you haven't taken it. But we have a Maptionary tool. Hopefully you can see my screen here now with the Maptionary tool on it. We have this tool. It operates as a survey, but it also operates to where you can go in, gives you a little bit of information on this front page about me and about the background and what we're trying to do with this effort. And then you can click on the arrow and it'll bring up the map of the region, and it'll bring up all the projects that are currently being reviewed as part of this process. Let me try to get back on that. I apologize for. Can y'all still see the Maptionary?
Yep.
Okay. I can't see it now, so I've gotten into all sorts of stuff here. But here we go. Okay. So when you get to this screen where you can see all of the projects, it gives you the opportunity to click on any project on the map. It'll pull up the project name. It'll pull up a description of the project, and the option to provide any feedback on the project that you have. You can say how much you support the project, whether it's not at all or whether you strongly support it. And then you can get a reason why you feel that way on the project. So you can search out any project that you want to. You can give feedback on as many projects as you want to, or as few projects as you want to. But you have this option to see all of the projects via the map and click on those and provide any feedback that you would like to. We got a lot of positive feedback from the public at the public meetings when they provided their feedback there, as we took it out to them. And the prioritization subcommittee has also been using this as a tool for them to provide feedback to us. And we've gotten some good responses on that. But then you can also click on the arrow, go in here, and if there's any other projects that you'd like for us to look at, you can type those ideas here, or you can also drop a point in on a road and give a description of what you'd like for us to look at. And then on the next screen, it gives you the opportunity to provide some demographic information, let us know the zip code you're in, and then for the steering committee or the prioritization subcommittee, it gives the option to provide that information as well, and click submit there. So this has been a tool that we've used to get feedback on the projects. Again, some of you may have already used it. I hope you have, but if you haven't, you're more than welcome to go in there and provide feedback on the projects that are being considered for the MTP. And keep in mind as well that any projects that are currently in the STIP, those projects will be, when we look at the horizon years for the planning purposes, those projects will be in the early horizon years. What we will actually be looking at as far as prioritizing will be beyond 2035. And then any of the projects that you see on the project list that we don't end up prioritizing, those projects will be included in what we consider the unfunded project list, or what will be ultimately the CTP. And they'll still be included in the full document, but they'll be in the unfunded portion of the document, which we consider the comprehensive transportation plan. So just wanted to remind you of that. Also wanted to bring to your attention that we will be doing another round of public meetings. Those meetings will be coming up in the July window of time. And we've got those nailed down now. They're listed on your agenda. So the first meeting will be Monday, July 7th, and that will be in Asheville at the Dr. Wesley Grant Southside Center. That'll be from 4 to 8 p.m. in Asheville. The second meeting will be Tuesday, July 8th at the Mills River Town Hall. And then the third meeting, and this one is now confirmed, will be Wednesday, July 9th from 4 to 8 at the Waynesville Town Hall. And at that meeting, we will have the full draft of the Elevate 2050 plan. We've been working hard on getting that draft together. So we'll have the full draft of the plan ready by those meetings. And that will obviously also include the full draft of the fiscally constrained project list. So the public will be welcome to come out at those meetings, look at that, and provide their feedback on those. And in your packet, you have an initial list of those projects that we've been reviewing. That's kind of still evolving at this point. We're still getting feedback from the prioritization subcommittee on their priorities, and we're taking those into account, obviously. And we're also still working with the MPO on some tweaks to things like cost estimates and such, and to make sure that we've got the most accurate data associated with those projects. So there's still some tweaking to do with the fiscally constrained project list, but we wanted to at least show you in your packet today where we are with that process and how we're going about that process. So a lot of that information is in there. And again, that's still evolving, but we wanted to give you some of that information to get you ahead of the game. Also, we've got some of the projections for future year revenue, and have given you some information about how we've gone about that process. But again, we'll be coming back to you again in the future and giving you more details on that. But we just wanted to present some of the information to you today that we've been working on. But the big thing again is that project list, and just giving you the opportunity to look at that and provide any feedback that you may have on that. So I think that's the main things we wanted to share with you today. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer for you.
Mayor Player.
Oh, who sees the results of the survey? Does that go to one group, or if it is heavy comments about one project, does it go to that project team? Who sees the results of this input?
Yeah, so the results of the survey will come back to us. We will share those with the MPO, and we'll talk through those with the MPO, and then probably with the prioritization subcommittee as well, to make sure that we're taking into account those results, and to make sure that we're prioritizing those in the best way possible for fiscal constraint, and to make sure that we're applying those effectively for the future years. Obviously, we've gone through a scoring process to help with fiscal constraint. And then obviously we have to make things fit financially, but we want public involvement and public comment to play a role in that as well. So that'll be something that, we're taking in that information, but then we'll share it with the MPO and with the subcommittee to make sure that we finalize all of that together to make it mesh.
Joel, I see on the survey, there's one of the projects is the I-26, I-40, 240 interchange as a giant bucket. Could that be broken out in a separate item, be this flyover of Patton Avenue, or is that horse too far gone?
No, it could be broken out. In fact, we've had some conversations with Tristan about a couple of these projects and about breaking them out specifically for cost reasons. So there is still opportunities to break some of these projects out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and sorry, I referred to you as mayor player, I'm mixing up my gym. It's been a week. But yeah, just specifically, I know the I-40 widening, that is on the list of potential priorities. That's one, we've asked the McAdams staff to look at potentially splitting up. That is a big old project that goes from right around I-26, specifically Monte Vista, over to US 2374 in Haywood County. I think all in all, Joel, I forgot what I sent you. I think the estimate's like $880 million.
That's right.
For that. So I think splitting that up is going to be important. Also, as a follow-up on that, that is a project that's currently being studied for potential high occupancy toll lanes. Exactly what that treatment would be with that project, I think is still being looked at.
Tristan, one small comment. There are some of these projects that, like here's one in Woodman, I don't understand what it is. The description of it, I have no idea what that means. Then I clicked on a location.
The modernized roadway?
No, the one where you click on Zillicoa Beer, and it says 251 Riverside Drive, access management with complete streets improvements.
Right.
There's a definition for access management.
Where is that?
That's at the beginning of the document.
Okay.
But that's a great thing to note. A lot of these projects, the description is fairly vague. I think in essence, that's, a lot of times what can be said on the table. And a lot of times there's not much known about these projects. A lot of these projects have needs that are identified. They haven't been fleshed out in any kind of preliminary design up to this point. So there are some of these projects where NCDOT has done studies, or the MPO has done studies. If you do have questions, feel free to reach out. We can provide more of the specifics where we have them. But I'll note that the majority of the projects on the list, we don't have much more specifics.
Okay, thank you.
And it won't be next week, Jim.
I hear you.
It's a long time out.
I know.
One more thing I'll note, especially with the funding table that Joel provided, is I think the important thing to think about in kind of the realm of 25-year planning, and especially considering this is a fiscally constrained plan, is that our region has a lot of transportation needs across the board. The question that we're trying to get to is a project good or not? All of these projects have been identified for some reason. The thing we're trying to get to is, what are the most important priorities that we can agree to as a region to start working towards and trying to get funded? That's what this plan is really trying to get at.
Okay, great work. Thank you very much. Any other comments about that? Okay. Moving on to one of my favorite programs is the Safer Streets or Safer Routes to School. And we have a presentation from Land to Sky.
Yeah, Ada will use our underutilized podium. But Ada McGovern has been on our team to start the Safe Routes to School program, and got the program really running in late 2023. So Ada, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you. And if you were in the TCC meeting last week, I said 2022, so I was giving myself an extra year there to goof around, but it was 2023 that this started, so there's been an update to the update. So, and Ada McGovern, the Safe Routes to School coordinator for the Land to Sky region. I've been working here for the past year and a half, give or take, in this program. I am not a transportation planner. I have actually had 10 years of public health experience. But in the past 10 years of my professional career, I slowly kept finding myself interacting with planners. So when this role opened up as a new program back in 2023, I thought it was a great fit for my expertise and interests. So Safe Routes to School is a program that was developed first federally in 2005. It was a standalone program for all 50 states. Since then, it's kind of undergone a few shifts, and now I get my funding through the state's TAP program. The mission itself has stayed largely the same. A lot of it has to do with working with the safe people part of the safe systems approach. So really encouraging active transportation in and throughout schools. In North Carolina, we have 22 Safe Routes to School coordinators. I am the only coordinator west of Polk County. And I have been awarded the Safe Routes to School funding for a third year through the state. But it is worth noting that in the future, I will need to provide a local match for my program. Much of our core program here in the region reflects what the state and the national priorities are, but specifically here, many of you are not new to this, we have a very unique landscape and amount of rurality that hinders the flexibility with going to and from school safely. So I've expanded out to not just working solely on walking and biking to and from school, more like active transportation, meeting folks where they are, either in the school, in the community, whatever matches well with that space. We started the program really focusing on getting our name out there and finding mobilizers in the different communities. We also focused on developing foundational projects, getting a few community-facing projects out there. Now that we're about a year and a half in, we've gotten our feet wet, and we're including more strategy in our framework. And you'll see little arrows that say, like, hey, this is where you come in. Okay. So much of our program core, I already said that. My program includes the 5 counties in the area, both urban and rural areas. There are over 100 public schools in the region. I developed a committee when I first started to represent those different counties in the region. And we still meet on a quarterly basis. So that's that committee. The goal of that is to get school leadership, nonprofit leaders, NPO, RPO, some superstar teachers, all in one room once every quarter to help guide me in the right direction with my programming. We currently have 11 active members through the different counties. And our next meeting is next Wednesday, so very exciting. One of my first tasks was to select pilot schools. So that was to help kind of guide me to distribute my resources throughout those different regions. And it also helped me focus onto a couple different schools. And those were picked with my committee members with a couple different indicators like life expectancy, income, household car availability, infrastructure amenities, things like that. This did not eliminate any school from being able to benefit from Safe Routes to School that approached me, but it did help me to kind of focus in on a few success stories. Thanks. Before I carry on, I want to talk about why this is maybe Jen Hensley's favorite program. I had a lot of fun with it, but let's think about like what the benefits are to this program for our communities. First off, health. This is one of the most obvious one, but only 1 in 4 grade school students are actually receiving the CDC recommended minutes of physical activity daily. So a lot of times this is equated to like sports or physical fitness activities, and this program really eliminates that and makes it more of a lifestyle choice. Walking to school in the morning can be 30 minutes of your hour of recommended CDC time. Next, we're going to talk about academics. Teachers always love when I get to this one. So movement helps students waking up their brain, and doing it before school can help students center their thoughts before arriving to school. Also, if they have a PE program that they're moving, really helps to focus their thoughts when they're going into their next subject. Safety, we hear that one a lot. But when we're using our infrastructure for people-centered transportation, we're really advocating for those improvements in that infrastructure. We also notice more about the streets when we're moving at a slower pace. So I know in my community, when I started walking my kids to school, I noticed a lot more things that I can advocate for with the MPO. Lastly, social. And by no means is this an exhaustive list of every benefit of active transportation, but I don't want to bore you all day and lecture you all day, so we're going to keep it here. But social, on the topic of noticing more when you're moving at a slower pace, this also feeds in here. You're noticing neighbors and friends that you are interacting with when you're biking or walking. Cars are not designed to connect us to community, so this kind of takes us back into a slower pace and helps us to notice more things. It has a delay, so the last little bit, I'm going to talk about everything I've done in the last year and a half. Just kidding. I'm going to spend this time looking at a model of safe routes to school. There's something called the 6 E's that nationally Safe Routes to School uses for their programming. And so I'm going to use that to highlight a couple of things I've done in the past bit since I've been here. So the first E is education. Safe Routes to School is a good way to link what we're already doing at our schools through active living. So an example of that is the Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day that we hosted last year at Lucia's Herring. And that's a picture of that. It was an opportunity for the school to apply for funding through Ruby Bridges. They were able to talk about community connectedness and history and unity, and also include active living into that programming. Another opportunity for education to students through this program is maybe doing a pop-up bike event. We did one at Brevard Elementary last month where we went and we set up a pop-up bike course, and students were able to try out biking for the first time sometimes and be able to navigate what that feels like in a safe space. And then on a personal level, I'm new to this position. I have lots of experience in public health, but it's been really important for me as a professional for the region to stay up to date in the field, to show up to MPO meetings, to go to conferences and summits, to get training for League of American Bicyclists, things like that. So that's a big part of education for my work here. The second bullet is equity. That looks at prioritizing opportunities during school hours. An example of that is maybe like Title I nights. If anyone knows what that is, that's all the elementary schools in our region are Title I schools. And every quarter they have to have a Title I a night that provides food and programming for students. So a lot of parents bring their kids up for those events. So that can look like having a Safe Routes to School program there so that all the students in the school have the opportunity to attend. Yeah, and also like looking at the schools that are maybe not the loudest schools. So a lot of schools, when they hear about this, maybe they're like really passionate parents that are like, yeah, let's get our school going. But then there are more rural areas where people are like, we're not walking our kids to school on that curvy road. So really reaching out to the schools that can benefit in alternative ways that are not the loudest. And last on this slide is engineering. There's a big asterisk on there because my program is not an infrastructure program. So I have limitations with that. So ways that I can link into that are walk or bike audits, leading those audits with people from the school, people from the community, students, and taking those resources to maybe city council or the school system or the MPO. So volunteering for those and then also helping organize those has been good. And then kind of a curveball when Helene hit, I'm trying to find ways to support the schools right after that happened. And one way we did that is offering volunteer stipends for folks that were helping to clean up the schools after the hurricane. The next three, we are halfway there. The next three, engagement. So this is really engaging in the different programs that are doing a lot of stuff. So Safe Kids, Western North Carolina, Safe Streets for All, Parks and Rec programs, school boards, PTOs, PE programs, nonprofits, health departments, principals, back-to-school events, community festivals, you name it. A lot of that is where I've been integrating into. Also online presence is really big with the younger generation. So tapping into that by making a branding for the program, developing logos, making the presence online as big as I can. So the second bullet is encouraging. Giving the tools for successful organizations of bike or walk to school days. Those are twice a year. This past one was earlier this month, and we had 3 new schools participating with a total of around 130 new students that were walking or biking to school that had not done that before. Helping out with programs that already exist, like bike rodeos, bike fleets, bike buses, travel trainings, student clubs, you name it, like getting in with those folks and seeing if I can help out with what they're already doing. So that stuff, some of it already exists, so that's good. And then evaluation. So baseline assessments at those pilot schools to determine where to focus my energy. We went to back to school events and did tabling and talked to parents and teachers and students and figured out what they would be interested in learning or doing at their school. And then I mentioned previously, I have a committee. We revisit the programming every quarter, and that's, checking in to make sure I'm on track to help all of the region. And then also checking in with more seasoned safe routes to school programs throughout the state and the country. Like I said, there's 22 different ones around the state. There are some that are also at regional councils, so it's nice to occasionally check in with them and see what they're focusing on. So there's been a few challenges and lessons learned from my time here. The first and most run into is the name in itself. It's not very comprehensive of the work that I cover. When I go to a rural school with narrow, curvy roads, they aren't the most responsive to safe routes to school as a name. So it's getting past that first zone out and getting to what would actually be helpful for their program and their schools. Second bullet, Helene, right? It's probably the most commented on limitation for folks that are starting a program right now. But this particularly hit home because if you think about the seasonality of the school year, the new school year started the end of August, and then Helene hit in September. So I had a lot of traction and then a natural disaster. So it went from like, yeah, we're really excited about all these programs to like, we just don't want lead in our water, right? So that was kind of an interesting curveball in trying to figure out what to do next. And all programs take a couple of years to really hit the ground running. I do think that this last bullet of spreading the word has become less of a challenge because we have gotten out there and done some programming. But this is something you can help out with as local leaders. So my committee met in February to revisit our goals when we were a little over a year in, and to reflect on what we want to do moving forward. So these are the areas that I'm going to focus on in the foreseeable future. And my biggest call to action for you guys is to engage with my program. So follow the program on Instagram, read the Transportation Matters newsletter, keep in the loop, show up to events that are happening in your county. And on that note, please take this as an opportunity to pull out your phones and scan this QR code. I promise it won't spam you. This is our Instagram page for Safe Routes to School. And if you live in Henderson County, you'll notice that a lot of it is Henderson County this week because Hendersonville Middle School is doing a safety program week. So they're every day this week we've been posting posts for the middle school. So thank you for being an active listener, and I'll take questions.
Other social media platforms or just Instagram?
You know, I have a website.
My phone's very Facebook oriented.
Really? Yeah. I haven't made a Facebook yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but I can take that as feedback.
Okay.
What are the 7 pilot schools?
Yes, let me go back so I don't forget any. from the list, right here. So Madison Early College High School in Madison County, Black Mountain Primary, Asheville Middle School, Hall Fletcher Elementary, Hendersonville Middle, Brevard Elementary, and Hazelwood Elementary. And those are where we're starting, and then any school that reaches out, I'm happy to help, so, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone have any questions over the Safer Routes to School program? It's been really awesome. I know Henderson County, we're doing several events this weekend. Strive Not to Drive Friday evening is kind of a family fun ride through town. And then there is actually a ride of silence on Wednesday in the city of Hendersonville as well. The farmers market is doing a walk audit of the Apple Country Transit in association with the farmers market on Saturday. And if you participate in that program, then you also get some tokens to spend at the farmers market on some of our yummy fruits and vegetables and homemade goods. And if anybody else has anything to add or would like to suggest anything on this topic.
I'll just note it was Bike to School Day last Wednesday, I believe. One of the past Wednesdays. So Ada, you coordinated and helped promote a number of events that got a total of how many students across
I think
the number of schools?
it's a little over 200. Yeah, as 8 schools. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I know my kids get super excited when they get to participate in events like that. And I'm glad that we prioritize these things for our children too.
Yeah, and Sandy will talk a little bit more about Strive because that's her brainchild. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, next up is Sandy Broadwell. She's our Transportation Demand Management Coordinator for the region. Like Ada, she covers the 5-county region. So more than the MPO, it's actually the MPO area and the RPO area. But Sandy joined us a day or two before Christmas and has been working on a number of things, including Strive Not to Drive. So with an update, it's going to start tomorrow. Take it away, Sandy.
Yeah, tomorrow is National Bike to Work Day, which is the official kickoff of Strive Not to Drive, and the events continue all the way through the following Saturday, May 24th. But before I get into Strive Not to Drive, I just want to tell you guys a little bit about Transportation Demand Management. I am the Transportation Demand Manager for the Land and Sky Regional Council. Like Ada, my position is funded through an NCDOT grant, and the matching funds are provided by the MPO. So Transportation Demand Management is basically trying to make our transportation system that already exists work better for everyone. And that's by increasing the efficiency and sustainability of the way that people get around. So anyone that we can get out of a single occupancy vehicle makes our roads safer and better for everyone who uses the roadways. If we get 5 people to stop driving by themselves during Strive Not to Drive week, then that's 75 feet less of queuing traffic for everyone who's still out there driving. So the TDM program is a lot of different strategies and initiatives and incentives to encourage people to bike, walk, bus, carpool, those sorts of things. And so Strive Not to Drive is our biggest kind of legacy TDM program in the region. It was started by advocates in the 1980s here in Asheville and has been gone through a number of big changes, including that it's regional and not run by advocates, but run by Land and Sky Regional Council with a ton of different partners, which I'll talk about more in a moment. But the goal really is to encourage people to move around differently and change how they get around the region. So this year we have over 20 different partners, including a lot of our different governments, our transit agencies, bike and walking advocates. The Asheville tourists are providing some of our prizes this year, AARP. So it's been a really fun year to be involved in this program. And this year we have events happening in Buncombe, Haywood, and Henderson County. So I have the events split out by the county so that you can see what's going on near you. but you're welcome to participate in any of the events regardless of what county you live in. I just wanted to shout out some that might be specifically of interest to members of the MPO board. We have Free Transit Day coming up on Monday here in Asheville. We're also doing a walk and bike audit training session, and so if you would like to learn kind of a standardized way to evaluate how to make an infrastructure better for people who walk and bike, there's going to be a training session at the West Asheville Library on Tuesday evening, and then the following morning we'll be doing a actual walk and bike audit at Lucy Herring Elementary. So that ties in pretty well with what Ada was talking about earlier of trying to make our infrastructure better for our kids who are trying to get to school. There's also the Ride of Silence on Wednesday evening, which is a bike ride that recognizes people who have been hit and killed in collisions on our public roadways. And there's also a lot of fun things that are happening. There's like fun themed bike rides and bike polo nights and things like that. It's not all serious or educational. Haywood County, this is their biggest Strive year ever. So I just want to give a big shout out to them. They're doing free transit all week. They're doing a big bike drive throughout the week in Waynesville for kids, specifically trying to get new bikes to kids who may have lost their bikes during Hurricane Helene, which is really sweet. And on Friday, May 23rd, they're doing a bike, bus, and brew social ride at Frog Level Brewing, which should be really fun, and they're going to have the bus there to teach people how to use the bus and learn more about it. The City of Waynesville also adopted a Strive Not to Drive ceremonial resolution at their meeting on April 22nd. Forgot to put this on the slide, but Asheville did the same at their City Council meeting on May 13th, a couple of days ago. So really appreciative to those communities. And because of their participation in Strive Not to Drive, our friends at Haywood County Public Transit and the City of Waynesville were actually inspired to create a social media commercial for their public transit system for the first time ever. And so I would like to share that with you guys. It's only about a minute long, so hopefully I can share that on here, and you guys can watch our Haywood County Public Transit commercial. Should I have the volume on? Yeah. Okay, here we go. There's no volume. You might have to do it from that computer. Should I do it now or come back later?
Let's come back later.
Okay, well, we can hopefully come back to the commercial later, but I'll continue on with the rest of the presentation for now since the sound isn't working. Let me reshare. All right. There we go. Okay, so that's Haywood County. Henderson County, like Jen mentioned earlier, has a bunch of really awesome events going on as well. They're doing free transit all week because Henderson County always has free transit, but we're helping promote it, especially during this week. They're also doing a downtown dollars promotion, and many of their downtown businesses are participating. And if you bike, walk, or ride the bus to a number of downtown businesses and fill out a little passport stamp along the way, you can win downtown dollars prizes, which is really exciting. They are also doing walk audit trainings, as Jim mentioned, at the farmers market on Saturday, tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, and that's going to be a learn how to ride the bus event as well. And they're also doing their own Ride of Silence. So that's just kind of the highlights. Anyone who participates in any Strive Not to Drive event can win prizes. And additionally, we're doing a commuter challenge all throughout the week where people can create an account on sharetheride.nc.org, and every commute that they log up to 2 per day, if they say they've biked, walked, rode the bus, carpool, scootered or whatever, that they are also entered in the chance to win the same pool of prizes. And so we have 20 tickets to the Asheville Tourist that we're giving away as 5 prizes of 4 tickets. We have 3 monthly bus passes for the art system here in Asheville, and we also have a basket of safety gear that was donated by Liberty Bicycles. So that's kind of the high-level overview of Strive Beyond, or Strive Beyond to Drive this year. The website is strivebeyond.org. Like I said, the events kick off tomorrow, and I hope to see some of you all participating in them. And if you have any questions or you would like more participation from your county or your town next year, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to have all 5 of our counties participating next year.
Awesome. Do we have any questions or comments? Sandy has been so great to work with from the staff perspective and is super eager and positive to jump in and help get these programs up and going. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we have some DOT division updates.
Yes, I'm Brendan Merrithew from NCDOT's Division 13. I'm filling in for Hannah Smith. Hannah is on vacation. I also don't know if she announced that she's taking a new position. She'll no longer be the Division 13 planning engineer. She's moving into our project delivery group as a project engineer, so managing STIP projects and other projects. I'll start with just a quick update on I-26. There was a public information session about 3 weeks ago or so, late April. The comment period for public input is still open, I believe, through the 25th of May. So a little over a week left for that. And there's a website as well as a phone number, so you can submit written or voicemail comments. There's an effort underway right now, a study with a consultant to analyze detours and routes during proposed construction phasing for that. So that's an effort ahead of construction, which we wouldn't see construction at least for roughly a year. It's the latest timeline that I've seen, because the design build process is still underway. The design is not finalized. So we're studying detours, lane closures, have them modeled. That effort will get us to where you see today. We have on the I-26 widening, the I-4700 project, occasional lane shifts or lane closures. Press releases are put out. The MPO and the RPO are real good about getting those out. That comes from the NCDOT. So that effort is underway. There will be coordination with City of Asheville staff and MPO staff and others going forward. A few other projects. I think we've talked a lot about STIP in these meetings, so I think everybody's fairly aware of projects either being delayed or on hold. One that was asked about just a little bit ago, I-4409, the proposed new interchange in Black Mountain on I-40 at NC9, sustained some part of that project area sustained some pretty significant damage from Tropical Storm Helene, and there's a temporary bridge over the Swannoa River in place now. We just recently got that area resurveyed because of the the changes in the river and the topography there. So the consultant was near right-of-way stage plans and now has to tweak that particular area, and we're going to break out the bridge portion from the overall interchange project to get the permanent repair in place sooner than the actual entire interchange project. The Sweeten Creek Road project, U-2801, has been segmented into 2 sections, one from Rock Hill now to Mills Gap, and that one is the only one that is funded for preliminary engineering only, so we'll be working that process, the merger process, and the initial design to get an environmental document on that, and then it'll be determined later if we get to a construction funding, environmental construction utility funding. Those were a few of the main projects I wanted to give an update on. If anybody has any, one more. Haywood Road resurfacing project was let and awarded. Pre-construction meeting was just recently held. The contractor is looking to start concrete work out there after the first week of July. And that won't involve or shouldn't involve lane closures and things. It's not the resurfacing and reconfiguration of the roadway portion. It's more to do with the ADA compliant curb ramps and sidewalk and crosswalk improvements in that project. So the actual resurfacing, most likely the bulk of it will take place in 2026. The contract has a window, I think, to be completed around November of 26. So the contractor will work on concrete now through the summer, and then of course, as it gets colder, resurfacing will have to wait until the spring, and that's when they'll do the bulk of that work. Does anybody have any specific questions about ongoing or current projects? I can close my update there.
I'll just note really quick, U-28010A, U-28001A, the Sweet Creek Road widening, Brendan, correct me if I'm wrong, engineering is continuing?
Yes, so the northern, it's broken out to an AA and an AB section, so from Rock Hill down to Mills Gap is moving forward with preliminary engineering. So
I thought the funding went away for that.
That portion is funded for preliminary engineering, not south of Mills Gap. And so what we'll do is we'll continue with, it was in the merger process, so we'll continue with those meetings and coordinations with our stakeholders and y'all, and settle on the typical section. We'll get the environmental document. That's basically where we'll go through.
So to be clear, it does not have funding for construction.
Okay.
But I just want to note this because for years and years and years, we've had projects funded in the STIP for preliminary engineering only. And this is one of the few times where I've seen preliminary engineering, which I think is fantastic. That readies our project, so if they get funded again, we aren't starting from scratch.
In a sense that it would get it to like shelf-ready status. I mean, it depends on when and if construction funding would come, and of course, you'd have to sort of revisit that document, but it would bring it to a point where it would be sort of teed up for construction right away, acquisition, construction, and utility relocation.
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon.
Division 14, all right. So the big news in Haywood County, which you know if you drive I-40 at all, is all the bridge replacements there. A question came up about lane closures because the goal is to have no daytime lane closures for those construction projects. But about, I guess it's been almost a month ago, we did have daytime lane closures. Wasn't so much for the construction, but the condition of the existing bridges. There was holes in the deck. So there had to be lane closures to repair those existing bridges to maintain that traffic throughout the life of the construction project. I-26 in Henderson County, for the most part, is finished. Traffic is open. Oh, okay. I thought maybe I said something wrong.
Not at all.
So traffic is open, and obviously it's working quite well until you get to Buncombe County, where we have to. They're still dealing with Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge there. Henderson County, the same projects that you've been seeing for a while. The Green River Bridge project, or the I-26 bridge over Green River. Do be looking for a lane shift. You remember it's phase construction where they're completing the lanes in the center of the bridge so that they can shift traffic. There will be a lane closure on that for shoulder work, but there'll be a press release, and the MPO does a great job of getting those press releases out to everyone. Otherwise, there's no new projects that have been added to your old updates. And remember that these updates can be found on the MPO's website, and anyone can contact us for questions, Division 13 or Division 14. On the project development side, again, the same projects that you've been seeing for a while. We've already discussed 191 and potential changes there, and that's really the only project where there's changes. A lot of our projects are quite far along. We've even purchased right away on quite a few of our projects, and the delays in the new STIP, the projects will just kind of hang out until we can construct them. Any questions for Haywood or Henderson County? All right, thank you.
Okay, Transportation Planning Branch.
Okay, just two quick updates from me today. One, my branch recently completed and published our new strategic plan. We haven't had one in a very long time, if ever. That is now posted to our website, so anybody who's more interested in what we do or how we plan to do it in the future, feel free to read it at your convenience. I was going through the public comment section, the survey section of the report earlier today, and I was glad to see that we had lots of representation from the state. It's not like a strictly Raleigh process. Other update for your enjoyment and fun is from the DMV. They are extending service hours. Beginning April 7th, 42 driver's license offices will join 50 that have already extended their hour of opening to 7 a.m. That's an additional hour of services. And additionally, the summer walk-in service hours are going to return this year. Last year, we completed about 17,000 transactions at the 16 offices that were open on Saturdays. This year, we'll have 20 offices open on Saturdays, starting June 7th through August 23rd. More information, of course, is on the DMV website. So those are my two little touch points.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, and do we have any staff updates or work group updates today?
I'll just kind of jump into a few things. I'll note that our committees continue to be active, especially the prioritization subcommittee that is overseeing the MPP development and is getting ready to talk about prioritization. Our 5307 work group is continuing to meet, as well as the Health and Regional Trail work group. Some quick federal updates. Reauthorization is in progress. So the federal transportation bill expires in 2026, the bipartisan infrastructure law. With reauthorization, some updates that we've gotten from some of our partners include that transit and rail cuts are expected with what is produced. Something that has, I'll just note, is within the realm of possibilities, but it was brought up by the Association of MPOs, is funding rescission being potentially possible. What exactly that might mean is unknown, but that's something I've brought up with a number of our local government partners. If you have a bicycle and pedestrian project that has grant funding, I think in our region, that basically means you have federal grant funding. And I will note that one issue that we've been talking about quite a bit is we get about, our region gets about $5.5 million in federal funds per year. And we have, I just looked it up, it's about $58 million programs for implementation over the next 5 years. You don't have to be a mathematics PhD to figure out that that's more than $5.5 million per year over 5 years. There is a lot of funding that is working on being implemented, but with rescissions being possible, that's something we bring up. Because when a rescission happens, especially with the pace of how quickly these projects move, you can't just build a project tomorrow. So we've brought that up with some of our partners with a number of federal grants on their projects and noted that, you know, if there's any way to get these projects moving faster, now's the time to do it. Also the MPO submitted a letter to the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. They've had an open request for input. We coordinated this with MPO leadership, and a few of the things that we emphasize is just the need for infrastructure funding, and also resilience planning for our region especially. The Protect grant, which was the federal grant for resilience planning and implementation, which this board approved us going after a regional resilience planning grant, that has been pulled for review. There we are uncertain of that program's future, but I just want to note that resilience is something we talk about a lot in the region. We also talk about it a lot at the state. There's meetings, Vic Eastland, the Land Sky RPO director, and I attend on a monthly basis. We continue to advocate for resilience as part of funding considerations. And one of the big issues is that the data just doesn't exist right now for that to be applied well. Having things like planning studies can help with that. Additionally, there continues to be an effort in reducing federal workforce. I'll note that the federal highways planning staff in North Carolina, it did go down to one person. I've been told it's back to 2 people. That is still a considerable cut. One thing you'll notice is FHWA and FDA updates will be pulled from additional agendas. We've been told that they simply do not have the capacity to attend our meetings, we anticipate just generally less coordination. I know, one person was like, oh, well, then maybe that'll mean less scrutiny. No, it doesn't. It means we get less input on the front end to avoid scrutiny on the back end. Also, USDOT issued an order to reinstate English proficiency for truck drivers. And as a follow-up on one of the items, I have not received any news on the discretionary grants that are currently being reviewed. Just as a reminder, discretionary grants that were awarded since 2021 that have not had their funding obligated have been going through an internal review at USDOT for activities such as DEI, green infrastructure, and bicycle infrastructure. So I know that we have a couple of projects in our region that are likely under review. Also I'll note, I didn't want to get into details, but there has been a budget proposed by the administration for FY26 that includes some boosts in funding in some categories, some cuts in others. And also one thing is EV fees, annual fees. I believe it's $250 for EV or electric vehicles, $100 for hybrids, and additional money is being made available to USDOT for enforcement. But all in all, that's expected to generate about $40 billion over the next 10 years. Congress is also working on FY26 budget considerations, and just note they don't totally line up. So we'll see what happens there. I do want to give a quick prioritization update. Just as very brief background, just as a reminder, this is the process in North Carolina that looks at all of the different projects from our long-range plans, or the ones that we submit. It's the process that helps determine where the majority of funding goes, what projects are selected for large capital improvements. It's a data-driven and transparent process. I'll also note that it's not without its complications. So I won't get too far into it, but in general, it breaks out funding into 3 different tiers. Those tiers have projects compete based on different geographies. So statewide mobility projects compete across the state. Regional impact, they compete across regions. For us, that's Region G, which is Divisions 13 and 14. For Division needs, they compete across divisions, so Division 13 or Division 14. They also have a number of different eligibilities of what facilities can compete for those funds. And I'll note, I won't go through all of this, I'll just note that projects can cascade from from statewide towards division, they can't cascade the other way. And as a reminder, North Carolina has a prohibition on state funds going towards standalone bike ped projects. There's also funding limits on light and commuter rail, regional transit, aviation projects. There's also a corridor cap to prevent a single corridor from gobbling up all the funding. Highway projects receive a minimum of 90% of funding. Non-highway receives a minimum of 4% of funding. And to note, that includes a number of different roads. The remaining 4% is an open competition. But to get to the important stuff, it's coming up soon. So with this next round of prioritization, what is currently on the schedule is submitting projects by September of this year, figuring out what is going to be programmed in statewide tier. In May of next year, regional impacts, we talk about this project and provide points in August of next year, and in December, we'll do the same with division needs. There's a number of changes that are moving forward that will be going to the Board of Transportation, I believe, for their June or July meeting. One of the big things is changing how roadway modernization projects are scored. Across the state, those modernization projects score real bad, including our projects. So there's a number of changes to make them score better. No more consideration of pavement conditions, less emphasis on lane and shoulder widths, more emphasis on safety, and an ever so slight emphasis on congestion. Bike ped scoring is changing for points of interest. Previously, employers with more than 50 employees were considered points of interest. We asked that that change to greater than 5 to reflect a lot of the small businesses in our region that can generate bike ped. Ferry scoring is changing, as I noted. Believe it or not, the guy in the mountains is not the one to ask for details on that. However, the really, really big change, and this is absolutely important, has to do with express design. Just as a quick primer, express designs are kind of exactly what they sound like. They are very quick designs put together by NCDOT and their consultants for potential projects. And so they're used to get a better idea of whether or not a project is actually feasible, get a better idea of the project scope, and most importantly, get a better idea of the cost of these projects. The express designs have been used a ton. I think something like 900 have been done since 2020 to get DOT a better idea of the cost of these projects so that it can get a better grip on its budget. These have been increasingly important tools for NCDOT to right-size its budget. A lot of the projects where we've seen jumping from 40 million to 140 million, I will just note that some of those are because there's an express design and DOT is getting a better idea of what that project actually is and what those costs are actually going to be. So it's a very important tool in that respect. The current process of using them is that in prioritization, we submit projects, the project gets funded, and then there's an express design. The big issue with that process is that projects are essentially getting into the budget, and then there is additional details that are determined in the express design process. So what's being proposed that will be moving to the Board of Transportation for approval would be requiring express designs for projects being submitted in the next round of prioritization. But obviously that's something where work has to start now to get express designs done. So it's a big process. The big idea is to get a better handle on project costs before they make it into the STIP or the budget. But it's going to be a big change. There are going to be projects where we are going to have to get express design started within the next year so that we can make sure we are getting that requirement done for the next round of prioritization. So I'll also note, as part of that, I have it's like a 10% joke. It's barely a joke, but I have joked that if we do express designs on everything that's submitted, I'm getting my PE, and I am raking in all the money I can from all the express designs that are going to happen. So another part of this has been reducing the number of projects being considered in prioritization. So what was approved by the work group is an overall 30% reduction in submittals for this round. So that would take our MPO down from 26 submittals per mode to 18 submittals per mode. That might not sound like great news to a lot of folks. I think that is a frugal step in the right direction. That's my personal opinion. DOT doesn't have the capacity to do, I think there were 2,400 projects submitted last round. He can't do express designs on that many projects. Those are some of the big changes that are proposed to move forward. Are there any questions on any of those?
I don't think so, and I will tell you, I trust your personal opinion a lot when it comes to these issues, and it's really good to hear that the DOT is really trying to work out some of the ways that these projects are getting funded, because it is obviously very unsustainable. Anything else? Do we have any legislative updates today?
Big thing is waiting on state budget, which I think is in progress. But also, we'll keep you guys as updated as we can with the federal updates. Okay. And do we have any additional public comment? Oh, sorry. There is one thing I forgot. Sorry. Daisy has an update in terms of the MPO.
So we were expecting to have the updated Title VI plan in front of you this month, but a number of the underpinning pieces to Title VI and the way that it works in actuality have been impacted by various executive orders at the federal level. There's still not been clear guidance issued on what that means and how it changes the template that we use to publish that document. And so right now we're waiting to move forward with the Title VI updates until that process solidifies a little bit. But I just wanted to keep you updated on that since we had presented to you a couple of months ago.
All right, thank you very much. All right, one more time, is there any additional public comment for this evening or afternoon?
Michael Rogers has his hand raised.
Okay.
Hey everybody, my name is Micah Rogers. I'm an Asheville resident and I'm also a board member on the East-West Asheville Neighborhood Association. Thanks to Tristan and all of you guys that do really good work. I just wanted to echo what Sonia said in the first round of public comments at the beginning of the meeting regarding the I-26 expansion project, specifically the Patton Avenue and the overpass decision, and just the overall project transparency that NCDOT has had. As a resident and also as a licensed landscape architect, I'm pretty concerned about the project's impact on our region and our city, both on a personal level as a citizen and also as a professional. And so just all of the public officials that are on this call, and obviously the MPO in general, I would really urge them to push NCDOT to work with the local governments and citizens as they finalize the design. And hopefully we can avoid another issue like the overpass design kind of getting pushed without a lot of community engagement in the process. It's really a great opportunity for, I think, for citizens, for the government, for everyone to really reframe how our city and how our region is not only accessed via transportation, but also really developed and how it's seen from an aesthetic standpoint. So I just urge all of you guys to please engage with NCDOT on behalf of all the citizens as much as possible, and please show up to the charrette this weekend if you have any opportunity, especially on Saturday, to give some input and kind of work with professionals like myself and architects and things of that nature as we try to develop the project and give our input as much as we can. So thanks, everybody.
I appreciate that, Micah. Thank you. Okay.
Jennifer, Chuck McGrady, can I jump in quick?
Absolutely.
Just on a personal note, I have informed Speaker's office that I do not want reappointment to the NCDOT board. As y'all are probably aware, I mean, all of the board seats are being fought over in court. We're in TRO, and I'm on sort of both boards. But as a practical matter, I could be replaced as early as the next meeting, but everything goes slowly in the General Assembly, so that probably won't happen. Likewise, it could continue on with the court battle, TRO and whatnot, in which case I've told the Speaker's office that I'm certainly willing to stay on board during whatever this interim period is until we finally get a court decision. But I just wanted folks to know, I haven't made a recommendation for my replacement, mainly because I don't know who that might be. It's a political process of sorts, and this is the House Speaker, and I was ideal for that appointment at the time, but haven't quite found it. It's going to be important, though, going forward, because right now the Division 14 is just really long, and if we end up with 2 people from Graham County, you won't have a board member coming from that division here. So the only recommendation I did make was that I thought that some in the Division 14 area, somebody from the east or Division 13, if the legislative proposal goes forward, needs to come, east to really fully represent the region. So we'll see. I'll stay on top of it, Kristen. I'll let you know what I know.
I appreciate that, and I think I've said it before. We appreciate absolutely everything you do. The coordination that you've provided has been absolutely incredible for this board. I think for our communities. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Without Chuck McGrady, there's a lot of things that don't happen in this region. I'll save the rest for some other time, but things like Augusta Trail, specifically with this MPO and the administrative side, you have been a force. So I can't say enough how thankful we are for all you've done.
Thanks for those comments. That means a lot coming from you. I've got as much respect for you as you apparently have for me. So.
Kristen, I think we had actually also talked about creating some I'm with Chuck buttons to wear, because we just want to show our love for him and all the work he's done. So Chuck, you're amazing, and we are very grateful for everything that you've done for us. So thank you as well.
Thanks, Jennifer.
All right, everybody. I think it is time to adjourn this lovely meeting. I hope you guys have a great afternoon and a good weekend, and get out and ride your bikes this weekend.
Thank you both.